Welcome to the explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in. What if I told you that your whole idea of cause and effect is basically a grand illusion, kind of like an optical trick? Today, we're exploring a powerful framework that challenges pretty much everything we think we know about reality. And it all centers on three secret words that could fundamentally change how you see everything. So let's start with something we all take for granted: our eyes. We trust them to show us what's real, right? But what if that trust is, well, misplaced? What if our most basic sense is constantly feeding us bad information, not just about small things, but about how the world itself actually works? You know what I'm talking about, right? Those images that seem to move or lines that look bent but are actually perfectly straight? These aren't just clever party tricks. They're actually powerful demonstrations of the gap between what our eyes see and what's really true. And look, this goes way beyond just simple illusions. For thousands of years, humanity's own eyes told us the sun revolved around the Earth. It was an obvious, observable fact. But our minds, using reason and science, figured out a deeper reality. Our entire planet was the one doing the moving. Our senses were tricking us on a massive cosmic scale. Or, hey, bring it back down to Earth with a simpler example. A spoon in a glass of water looks broken. Our eyes are telling us, hey, bent object. But our mind knows better. It knows about the physics of light refraction. So in both cases, you've got this conflict: what seems real versus what is real. Okay, so here's the big question, the whole point of this. If our senses can be so easily fooled by physical stuff, what if we're making the exact same mistake with something way more fundamental? What if our entire concept of cause and effect is just another one of these huge illusions? So how does this illusion even work? Well, this framework we're looking at says our biggest mistake is actually super simple. We see two things happen together, and we just automatically assume the first one caused the second. And to really unpack this, we need three powerful words. To really get this, just picture a lab mouse. A bell rings, and then boom, a piece of cheese appears. You do this a few times, and what happens? The mouse starts to think the bell brings the cheese. It has connected the two events in its mind, believing the bell causes the cheese. This brings us to our first secret word, iktiran. It basically just means proximity or closeness. It's just describing two things happening near each other, one after the other. The bell and the cheese, they have iktiran. They happen together. But does that closeness actually mean one caused the other? And that leads to the second word, illet. This means the true cause. See, in our little experiment, the true cause of the cheese isn't the bell at all. It's the experimenter, the person putting the cheese there. The bell is just a signal, something that happens nearby. But the illet is that unseen hand making it all happen. And finally, that brings us to our third word, iltibas. This is the mistake itself. It's the confusion that happens when we mistake iktiran, that simple closeness, for illet, the real cause. The mouse is totally in a state of iltibas. And the argument here is that, well, so are we most of the time. Okay, so if the causes we see every day are just like that bell for the mouse, then what's really going on here? Why is there this curtain between what we see and what's actually happening? This perspective uses a really beautiful analogy, a shadow puppet show. You know, our eyes just see the puppets moving around on the screen, and they look like they're alive. But our mind knows better, doesn't it? We know they can't move on their own. There has to be a puppeteer hiding behind the screen, pulling all the strings. And this just begs the question, right? If the world is like a puppet show, why even have a curtain? Why not just show us the puppeteer? Why go through all the trouble of creating this system of apparent causes that we get wrong all the time? Well, this framework gives us three pretty deep reasons. First, it's a test. It's a test to see if we'll use our minds to look past the obvious. Second, it's about showcasing divine artistry, like an artist revealing their work through different styles or signatures, like the provider or the healer. And third, it's kind of a buffer. It gives us something to deal with, so we don't just direct all our frustration at the ultimate source every time something goes wrong. Okay, let's dig into that first reason a little more, the test. The idea here is that the world is just full of these crazy contrasts that are basically designed to make us question what we see and look for the real cause. Okay, think about a bee. This is an insect so simple it can get stuck on a window. And yet, this same creature builds these mathematically perfect hexagonal honeycombs and fills them with the stuff we call a liquid miracle. The argument is, The B is just the apparent cause. It's the veil for something much, much bigger. In this case, divine mercy. Or how about this? You get a beautiful, delicious, fragrant piece of fruit, and it grows out of plain old dirt. How does something so lifeless produce something so vibrant and complex? This perspective says that contrast is on purpose. It's meant to point you past the dirt, the apparent cause, to the real cause, this incredible power at work. This even works with our own health. We take a pill, right? That's the apparent cause for getting better. But we all know the medicine doesn't always work. This viewpoint suggests the medicine itself has no power to heal. Taking it is more like a physical prayer. It's an action we take to show we want to be healed. But the actual healing, the effect, that comes separately from the true source, the healer. This whole idea is just perfectly captured in this one powerful verse from the Quran. After a huge battle, the Prophet Muhammad was told, "You did not throw when you threw, but it was God who threw." I mean, think about that. It's this profound reminder that even in a moment of direct physical action, the person doing it is just the veil for the true cause, the illet. Okay, so if we start thinking this way, how does it actually change how we see our own lives? Well, it pretty much forces a radical rethink of where we put our trust, our blame, and even our gratitude. Just think about the curtains in your own life. We think our boss is the source of our paycheck. We think our diploma is the source of our success. We think the doctor is the source of our health. But what if all of those are just the puppets, the closest, most visible cause? They are the iktiran, the proximity, but not the illet, the true source. And this is where we get this beautiful final metaphor. This curtain of causes, it isn't some solid brick wall. It's described as a tenatelli perde, which is like a delicate lace-like veil. And what that means is, if you look with more than just your eyes, if you look with your mind, with your heart, you can actually see the light of the true cause shining right through it. And so the ultimate challenge this whole idea leaves us with is simple, but man, is it profound. It's a challenge to start looking at everything differently, to look past the obvious, through that delicate curtain of daily events, and to ask a much deeper question. What or who is the true source behind all the beauty, the order, and the life that we experience every single moment?